Mayong hapon. Welcome to Ilumoca's first live stream of 2021. In celebration of National Arts Month, we will be holding live streams in partnership with the Art Response projects to help artists in their practices. These topics were conserved by creative powerhouses Richard Bukshani and Riel Hilario. Thank you, Richard and Riel. We have talks scheduled in the next coming Saturdays. These are healthcare management for artists on February 20 and gallery representation on February 27. This afternoon, our topic is on writing exhibition proposals. Exhibitions are huge milestones for artists. It is also one of the best ways to show your art to a wide audience. So our guest, Laya Bukiran of Nayong Pilipino, will walk you through creating exhibition proposals. Laya Bukiran is with the Nayong Filipino Foundation. She has a Doctor of Philosophy in Philippine Studies. She has served as curatorial consultant for Gallery Genesis, the Museo de Intramuros, and various independent projects. Through a grant from the Japan Foundation, she was one of the co-curators of the International Traveling Exhibition Field Trip Project. Bukiran has contributed in academic journals, published books, and contributed chapters of books under Vibal Publishing. Authored a book on Pro Ecclesia et Pontifex awardee Willie Tadeo Layog, for whom she curated the artist's second solo exhibition at the NCCA Gallery, and authored a corresponding monograph published by the institution. Other publications include Now Here, Access, Activate, Rewind for Erewhon Center for the Arts, and a book on Grandmaster of Philippine Aquarelle Toti Serda. She obtained a Master of Arts in Art History from the University of the Philippines in Dalaman and has completed short focus programs for the Institute of Media and Entertainment in New York and Keio University in Japan. So welcome to the show, Laya.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Aline. Thank you for that warm introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Laya, and I hope I can help emerging artists, both young and young at heart, on the elements of writing a proposal for exhibitions, grants, or artistic projects in general. Fair warning, though, that these are not rules. I don't think there is one rule. Uh, I assist the Nayong Filipino Foundation in developing new programs. One of these is a future creative hub nestled in an urban forest that provides capacity building and cultural technology support. So, in a way, this talk is also an experiment for us. We hope to support creatives. Last year, we've been vetting proposals for an online project called Rhizomatic Interventions that encouraged artists to work with practitioners from science, literature, and other disciplines. So I guess that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from an institutional standpoint also. I understand that many artists are already known by galleries and museums. So when they stage exhibitions, sometimes they've been doing that for several years without having written many exhibition proposals before because of the close contact and the connections they've been maintaining over the years. No, but I'm thinking, what if the artist is emerging, or if the artist wants to venture outside the Philippines? So I guess this is what this talk is for. First, let's define our parameters. What do we mean by project? What do you want to achieve? I guess it's a question. No? So is it A, sales, B, recognition, C, self-expression, or wala lang, basta rock and roll lang? No, so for me, I see a project not just as an opportunity to earn for short-term gains or to be recognized, to have awards, but also as an opportunity for artists and creatives to find a place for ourselves in the art world. It is an exciting endeavor where one can enliven new work with one's artistic vision. That, or use our artistic vision to reinterpret existing works for a new project. In a nutshell, a proposal should describe what you hope to accomplish, why those objectives are important to your artistic practice, and how you intend to achieve your objectives. The what, why, and how. Your project proposal is the core of your grant or exhibit application. The ideal format and language will tend to vary with the kind of project you envision and the organization you are talking to. As I said, it varies. Organizations now have very different templates. If you Google and look at the website of the NCCA, Ilumoca, and also CCP, they each have their own templates. Um, Anyway, no. So those who get proposals are probably reading 100 other proposals. Hence, it is important not to stress them out, like this cute dragon here. In any relationship, let us be clear with our intentions. So tomorrow it's Valentine's Day. It's important to be very clear with our intentions and what we want to achieve in any relationship. It all boils down to clarity of purpose. So even before we actually start writing, even before we start writing our proposal and compelling others to read it, we have to be clear what is the purpose why we want to exhibit. So anyway, I call this the write it right process. Before we start writing the proposal, we must first prepare to write, list what we should write, and only after then write. I divide the processes into three general phases: survey, gather, and then write. First things first, survey. This involves preliminary gathering of information or profiling. This means to proactively search, to scope the field. What kinds of art spaces or platforms are available out there? And by platform, we may be referring to either physical or virtual platform. Then, once you identify, assess, and determine. So before we embark on a mission, we prepare and find out all the information there is to know. Information we need not only includes opportunities, but also risks. What is the reputation of the organization that you're talking to? No, so among these are the things you need to find. In scoping the field and seeking opportunities, we often deal with organizations across scales and types. So, to whom will you submit the proposal? You need to find out what kind of organization is it. I suggest you check out their governance structure. It's usually on the website. You check out their funding source. Is it privately funded? Is it government funded? Is it funded by the General Appropriations Act? No, so it's funded by the state on a regular basis, for example. Who are their stakeholders? What kind of audience do they have? And then, what available platforms are offered by the organization? Are you proposing an exhibit in consonance with their mission vision? Of course, this goes both ways. Is the organization's mission vision, programs, and activities suited to your own artistic vision? And I'm asking these questions because in the long run, people will hopefully be interested in your career, the range of projects and engagements that you have. People will want to know more about your artistic practice and whether there is a certain focus in what you do. Some considerations that you will write about are the following. Why do you want to pursue the project? Why is it relevant to the organization you're writing to? And it goes both ways. Why is the organization important to you? So these things ultimately go into the cover letter. So the cover letter is very important. We don't just submit a template, with all our a barrage of our works before and images and photos and labels. We need to have a cover template. No, it's just like meeting a new person. You have to have an opening conversation, and that's what the cover letter is all about. So check the list of projects already selected by the organization before, if they have a website or social media page, and you will see what is really behind the words when they talk about their vision, mission, or even the description of their gallery or institution. Um, there, no? So other considerations you will need to think aside from the kind of organization you're talking to are matters pertaining to time and space. I'm talking about the temporal and spatial considerations when you're proposing a project. So does the organization have, for example, a pre-programmed calendar of exhibits for the entire year? And if they do, is there an available slot? Or is this fluid, much like Dali's clock? Or maybe there is a particular month or date when you will want to stage an exhibition that coincides with an occasion relevant to your project, say Heroes Day, launch of the quincentennial, Heritage Month in May, Earth Month. There goes the art and ecology stuff that you might want to propose. Anniversary of the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act in October. So these are just some of the occasions that we as a nation generally celebrate, and it would be nice to tie in your exhibition with this series of exhibitions. Of course, you can always go for self-expression, um, looking at the guidelines and following the templates of the organization. So those are the temporal factors. Anyway, the next is, where will you exhibit? Or maybe what kind of space will you need for the project you have in mind? What kind of space does the organization offer? Is it, for example, a contemporary art museum, say with high ceilings and substantial climate control? By the way, this is from a project I had. I didn't steal the photo. It's from Field Trip Project Asia in Vargas Museum. Or is it a gallery that allows intimate exhibitions fit for contemplation or provocation? Where is it located? Is it in a highly dense urban area where families and children go to? Is it situated in a heritage zone or the historic core of the city? So this example is I Am Living with Monsters. It was staged in Art Portal in Davao. It's in the historic core of the city. The gallery happens to be in the historic core of the city. Or maybe it's in a commercial complex. I'm not gonna name the mall. Is the space a mall? Then there would be plenty of opportunities for audience engagement. But that art experience, you have to remember, is only aggregated with other types of leisure experiences. I think this is one thing you also need to consider. Or maybe does the organization have a space outdoors with, say, opportunities for art-based activations, say installation art, or participatory activities? Is the location near a cluster of hotels maybe, or leisure facilities, as in a prime location in a city? Is it a place perfect for natural heritage appreciation like what we have in the Nayong Filipino Foundation, what you see before you on screen? So this is the Nayong Filipino Foundation property in Parañaque. It's to be activated this year and it's open for proposals. Moving forward, the last question on, is it possible to have collateral activities? No, so you have to ask yourselves as you're scoping organizations and different platforms, can that platform be available, for example, for live art demonstrations inside the space? Is it open to that? Can they do an on-the-spot wood carving demonstration like what we did for the NCCA gallery featuring Willie Tadeo Layog? Or maybe if you're proposing a project, to what extent can the artist, you, the artist, engage the community? So what you see before you is in Baguio City. The artworks are worn on the backs of the UP students, going around areas once damaged by the 1990 earthquake. Now, so this is from the Field Trip Project Asia International Exhibition. Or maybe the project you have in mind is a DRRM or trauma release project. So are there vulnerable groups you will engage with in your collateral activities? In that case, you will need to secure informed consent forms and talk to the school, for example, or the guardians, have a meeting with them. What you see before you is also from the field trip project. We engaged teachers and students in Kabuinan Elementary School in Leyte a year after Typhoon Haiyan. So going back to the different typologies of organizations, each with their own platforms. To a certain extent, organization, location, typology, they all have something to do with audiences or a set of stakeholders they cater to and reach out to. You have to remember these are more than just physical spaces. These are platforms, and this platform may or may not extend to the digital space as well. So that's for survey. And then when you land on the organization's website or social media page, or when you make an inquiry, are there any set guidelines? So you have to read carefully the guidelines. If they do have guidelines or a template that they need to fill up, you need to follow because they already give you the set of information they're actually looking for. And since we're browsing every nook and cranny of their website and social media page, what does the organization provide? So you need to take that into consideration as well. And are you comfortable, for example, with a set of provisions, and not just provisions, but limitations as to what they can provide? So you have to read also through the assessment criteria of the organizations if they have. Most organizations and institutions do not publish an assessment criteria. But if it's a government institution, they should be publishing an assessment criteria. And it's useful so that you could refer to them while drafting the proposal. And then if you're reading these guidelines, you have to, as much as possible, learn them by heart after reading carefully. I guess the point is we would want our project to be at the right place and at the right time. So again, a quick rundown. Go ahead, take a screenshot. These are the things you need to consider before you even start writing. The next thing you need to consider, or the second phase, is now to gather or list what you need to submit and gather all available materials that you have. So this is the more tedious process of gathering all those photos, labeling all those photos. Some considerations that you need to think of as you're gathering materials. Think of the objectives of your project, and then as to goals and objectives, give your most focused vision. When you're thinking of a project, describe key expressions, impressions, or insights that you intend, and the audience that you intend them for. And then on significance, think of sources of artistic design and inspiration for the project that you have in mind. So when you're going through the production process, what inspired you? For example, when you were producing those artworks, were you inspired by the detailed quotidian scenes illustrated by Norman Rockwell? Maybe flora and fauna in Dutch painting, Richard's sculptures, Riel's works. So you think about those things. What inspired you? What kind of research did you do? So it's like reverse engineering of the process of producing the works, because this will go into the proposal ultimately. And then what is the relationship between your proposed project and past or current works by other artists or designers? So in light of current dialogue across related media, you have to ask yourself, seriously confront ourselves, how is your vision unique, interesting, or original? Because it's very important. Did you, for example, immerse in a community or participate in an advocacy that might be helpful as well in writing the proposal? So in writing, especially if the one you're writing to you're not previously acquainted to that organization or person, you have to make a case that there will be a community that will be interested in your work and that you're creating a value proposition. There, no? On artistic background, so what formal or informal training and mentoring have you had or will you need? Some of the proposals I've received, for example, don't give me an inkling about the person's artistic background. So I think when you're writing a proposal, it's important to make these little notes. Were you mentored by someone? How did you learn art? And when they say, how did you learn art? I'm not just referring to formal institutions. I'm referring to connections, associations that you make in the art world, friendships that you make even, or mentoring experience, or mentoring the experience of being mentored by someone more senior, for example. So this is all very important. And then ultimately, this experience that you have learning about art will inform the project. And that's what, for people who are reading your proposals, that's what we want to know. So organizations like us also want to know the project. What techniques will you use? Why and how will you use them? What area or media will you be working in? And then what's your concept for the project? What concerns are you trying to address? How do you envision your final product? I guess all the things I'm saying, it all boils down to vision. What's your artistic vision? And artistic vision is very important to those who read proposals. So now we go to the third phase, the writing phase. Writing actually coincides and goes along with reviewing. They're simultaneous, almost simultaneous. And as I've been mentioning, there are many templates that you can find on the internet. Basically, you will just follow those. In fact, in preparing for these presentations, I scoped the different templates in the US and in Europe, for example, institutions and organizations, just to see what's common. Is there anything that's common? There was none. No, each organization and institution each had their own recommendations, and that's why I'm walking you through the various phases before you even start writing. What I'm trying to offer are just some tips. No, again, they're not really rules. Maybe partly I'm also speaking from experience, what I had to go through when I was writing several proposals. First, the cover letter. Now, again, we go back to the cover letter. A cover letter briefly stating your purpose and value proposition. So remember this slide a few slides back. That's the one. Now, in your cover letter, emphasize why do you want to pursue the project? Why should it be relevant to the organization? And why is the organization important to you? These are the whys in a cover letter. Um, then when you're writing a cover letter also, let me just go back to that. State exactly, give the reader a briefer, no, of what kind of project you're proposing. Don't go into the details yet, not yet. Just maybe give 3 to 5 sentences and then a general schedule. If it's a long project plan with a detailed implementation timetable, don't go into that yet. No, make your cover letter around 1 page is good. No, 1 page is good already. 1.5 pages, a bit long, no, but it might be useful if you're writing for a grant, but not too long. No, you would want to that cover letter to be a series of paragraphs, one idea per paragraph, and each paragraph is something like a teaser that would lead your reader to look at the other document attachments that you're trying to submit. No, so don't be TMI or don't go into information overload. No, you would want patikim only in your cover letter. And then make the reader go through the rest of the documents that you're submitting. So what are those documents? I don't mean to overwhelm artists in this Zoom right now. No, I know that for the past 5, 10 years of your life, no, you've known galleries and museums you've been exhibiting at. No, some hire professional writers to craft their proposals for them, and that's also okay. That's totally fine. Now, there are freelance writers who do that. There's a Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines, and they're willing to accommodate creatives. Now, so basically, these are the parts. Cover letter, you have a bio note. You wouldn't want to overwhelm your reader to get to know your 50 solo exhibitions immediately, no? Or your 100 group exhibitions. No, not yet, please. No, just give a brief bio note first. A statement is optional. No, a statement is like your vision. No? So what are you? What kind of value proposition are you trying to bring in the art world? And then you go into the exhibition concept. It need not be very long, and you need not quote Deleuze or Zizek. You know, need not quote all those jargons that you have, in art writing. Don't believe that, that you need to be jargon filled. No, it's not that. In fact, clarity is very important. No, the clearer your concepts are, what you're trying to say, the better. And then this one is very important: the object list and photos. No, propose display systems and layout. If there is any requested staff work and logistical support, you need to write that in. And then your 50-page CV, no, just kidding. Now, your CV with all your 20 solo exhibitions and 30 group exhibitions, and then documentation of your previous work. So anyway, this is your checklist. The one reading your proposals, especially if you're talking about an institution, would need to receive an entire dossier with parts having a clear and well-structured text. Now, so be concrete and brief. If there's a template, answer the questions in the guidelines and the template, but don't promise something you will not be able to realize. Wag tayong pa-fall. No? And then for productions or exhibitions, provide a detailed timeline with a project start date, including maybe the pre-production research, production schedule, itemizing tasks, allocating time and delegation for each, basically factors of time, no? And then how will the final work or production you envision enhance your growth as an artist? No, I think those who vet proposals are also looking for that. Um, how do you, for example, plan, to present this work to the audience? How will it affect the audience? An object list, by the way, no, is a list of images. They have to be numbered and labeled with complete dimensions and, if possible, only if possible, very brief descriptions. Very brief descriptions. No, you don't need to interpret the artworks that you made. No, just very brief descriptions. Labels are very important. I like labels. No, don't make the evaluator guess what is photo DSC 5047 and how it is different from JPG 05081138. No, so see, it's really tedious. Numbers are tedious. I get overwhelmed by numbers. No, so let's not overwhelm our readers. It can be cumbersome and stressful. And then when you're preparing your CV and bio note, the principle of emphasis and subordination also very well applies. Emphasize the biographical info we want others to see first and subordinate those that do not add value. No, for example, or they do not they're not bongga enough, for example. No? So you need to organize also information in a very deliberate way. Not chronological. I do not recommend entirely chronological, but maybe very deliberate if you're writing a bio note. And then for the CV, that's when you can be chronological. So for example, if you're listing accomplishments in your bio note or your CV, prioritize the most recent within 3 to 5 years. Highlight if there are any recognized institutions and venues, or maybe in group shows, the artists that you've interacted with. If there are more established artists, then write what kind of group exhibition you were in. But anyway, as I said, I'm not really imposing on the artist. It's really up to you. I'm just here to share a bit of how I do things. And how do I do things? Let me give you samples. So here's an example of a bio note that abbreviates a more extensive CV attached. I started with a mention of ACC, Asian Cultural Council, since due to the prestige of the institution, and then proceeded to include exhibition in international shores, and then most recent residency of the artist in New York. Blind item. Anyway, another bio note sample that demonstrates the artist's track record from artistic training, awards, residencies abroad, before the rundown of exhibits in local institutions. No? So this is how I did things in a grant proposal. I did it this way because it's a grant proposal. It was a proposal for the Japan Foundation Manila and Asia Center. No? So I always start with solo shows first before group shows. Notice also that I just put the dates in open close parentheses, so it's not so tedious, no, and it's less wordy. And I indicate the years so that my reader, my evaluator, will have a gauge on the artist's productivity within a given span of time. Gaano ba kasipag si artist? Tingnan nga natin. Anong ginagawa niya for the past several years? So those are the things that spark our curiosity, as evaluators. So anyway, sample exhibit concept. So this for an exhibition, it was a satellite exhibition, just a satellite exhibition, but I had the most fun with it compared to the main exhibition, if I must admit. The exhibit was titled Lupa. So what was the exhibition concept? Very simple. We just went ahead and described what were the various significations of lupa, from property to literally land, geological properties, ownership, boundaries, memory, cultural memory, collective memory, identity, sense of belonging, and how land can also be inherited, gifted, stolen, usurped, claimed, contested, all these things, encroached upon, and permanently lost. So notice these are keywords that I mentioned, and those keywords go into the exhibit concept. And that's it. I need not quote any jargon. These are very common keywords. So the structure is similar if you're preparing for a grant. We need to set out a clear idea, a set of priorities and preferences from our scoping, what we found out in the survey phase, and then a detailed plan of activities, their content and schedule, if you're proposing for a grant. So see, if you're proposing for a grant or a residency, it's much more detailed and the dossier would have more elements. rather than compared to an ordinary exhibition, especially if it's for a residency or a grant and the funding is let's say an international funder, cultural agency, for example, like Japan Foundation or Korea Cultural Center, maybe it will be more detailed and the dossier would be thicker, unfortunately or fortunately for us. So the guidelines that you surveyed, you have to reflect them in the description and always check the proposal guidelines, what costs are eligible, anong pwede at hindi pwede, no? So that we don't, it lessens the back and forth, no, and asking. Is the budget flexible? What kind of details do you need to provide? No, so very often the budget credibility is estimated on the basis of given details. You don't put cost estimates there. Let's say you put 500,000 logistics. No, you need to detail that if you're asking for money. There are templates that you can refer to. In fact, you can Google these things. No? Let me give you a tip. The government documents, the costings are there. You can use that for reference. It's transparent under FOI after all, the freedom of information. So for activities and description, I guess you need to put in there what will be done, what forms of events and activities will be done, who and by whom, no? Who does what and by whom, no? And who will attend or be directly or indirectly involved in the project, where will it take place, what is the time period for preparation. That's also important to the evaluators. How long will you prepare for it? Usually that's when we gauge, this person, no, seems to be very well prepared or has done what we call this one, due diligence, no? We need to demonstrate to our evaluators that we can exercise due diligence. I guess that's especially true for grants and residencies. No, it's much more flexible for exhibitions. There, no. So, for example, no, institutions would already have a briefer on the organization and also a checklist, no, published in their websites. Not just that, no, but provisions that that they're willing to give. Okay, so it's good not to be dealing with organizations like that also. At least you know it's cuentas claras, no, nothing hidden. Not to worry, no, there are institutions and enablers in institutions who are very willing to help creatives. Ay, sorry, nabanggit siya, no? And they're very willing to help creatives and artists, and they're really there to create the necessary conditions to help ease the legwork so that artists like you can just focus on producing the works. No, but you know, we love managing curators like this. Also, institutions will have templates on hand. All you really need to do is to fill up, you know, the information required. I guess that's true for exhibits. As I said, it's much more detailed. You know, if you're talking about residencies, applications for residencies, or funding, no, funding, international funding with a larger scale, no, project. So anyway, with all these, no, ask yourselves, did you forget anything? You need to triple check. No, it's so easy to make a mistake, especially in those huge international calls for proposals. So when you have everything, no, all the principles that I mentioned, I did not choose to emphasize your templates, no, because templates vary per institution. But these are principles, maybe, or tips that may be useful to us. Clarity of purpose, being at the right place and right time, artistic vision, due diligence, emphasize the important information, and then triple check everything. If all that is ready, then hit send. No, send in your proposal. It depends. Some institutions ask for courier sending, like international funders, and some institutions are very techy. No, all you need is to submit an email and a ton of images in a Dropbox, maybe, or on Google Drive. No? So I guess that's it. No, I thank you very much. No, for letting me rant, no, or letting me speak here, no, for this event, no, and I hope I was able to help a bit, no, artists. I know it's not very detailed. You can always email to ask for more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Laya. That was very clear, actually, and helpful, I'm sure, for the artist. So we, during the talk, we encouraged our viewers to ask questions, and we have one question here. So the question is, does one have to have a deep advocacy to set up an exhibit?
Let me answer you, or let me ask you a question to answer that question. What do you mean by deep advocacy? Now, what are your parameters for saying that an advocacy is deep? If you're writing from, let's say, personal memory, does that mean that it's no longer deep because the experience that you're trying to share is personal? I think it's, so my answer to that is really more of a question. What is our notion of deep advocacy really? No? Or if it's a deep advocacy, does it require that you are, let's say, or even the term socially engaged? What exactly do we mean by socially engaged? Now, does it mean that you have to have, kailangan ba nakirally ka? No, for you to say that your advocacy is deep enough. No, I guess each person would have his or her own advocacy. One may have a more environmental advocacy than Tito to the max. No, I know an artist like that. No, and another no would be more. The advocacy would be, let's say, labor rights, for example. Some are the advocacy is pertaining to gender issues, and when we say gender issues, it's not necessarily VAUC. No, for some it could be as simple as equity maybe, or equal opportunities. For example, in the professional world, no, in institutions, no, um, there, no, and also another way for me to help the person who asked that question is it's good to check the profile of the organization you're writing to also. um, in trying to look at their advocacies also, what is the organization's advocacies, no, what is the organization's mission vision, no, is what you're trying to do consistent with your mission vision. What if you want to exhibit, let's say, flora and fauna, you want to exhibit paintings of orchids, no, and then the organization you're writing to, let's say, Human Rights Commission of the Philippines Museum, it's a bit ano it's incongruent, no, so it's not really about how deep, quote unquote, your advocacy is, but again, being at the right place and at the right time. Is it the right organization you're writing to, or the right platform? Thank you.
All right. So remember, it has to be the right organization for the right concept. We
Yeah, you
have
matched
an
it.
we have another question. So the question from Wilfred Tanedo: do exhibitions need to earn or just to reach out? Do this matter to international grants? That's
Wilfred, hi. Thank you for joining this talk. No, how's Davao? Um, when you're writing for yeah, he's asking if it's an international grant giving body, and he's asking if there's a need to earn. Actually, on the contrary, our experience with the Japan Foundation, I guess this is also true for many grant giving bodies, because of these cultural agencies, international cultural agencies. The funding for operations of these cultural agencies come from the taxes of the people, the taxes of the Japanese citizens, for example. Then they wouldn't want the exhibition to be for profit. No, so on the contrary, some international grant giving bodies wouldn't want the exhibition to be for profit. If you want the exhibition to be a selling exhibition, then go to commercial galleries, I guess.
it. So it all still boils down to the answer to the previous question. So we have another question here from Richard Bokshani. So how much info in the CV do you recommend without it being too long or too short or too much?
How much info in the CV?
Baka
I
word count lang
guess,
gusto.
um, how many solo exhibitions did you have, Richard? No, if you had 50 solo exhibitions already, go ahead and write all your detail, no, or write year, place, title of exhibition. Usually it's what I'm looking for, I don't want to be guessing. For example, when I'm evaluating, when did this artist exhibit and where, so, and if you're writing also the solo exhibition, if you're detailing that in a CV, I would want to know where exactly did the artist exhibit. I don't want to be reading, oh, the artist exhibited in Manila, or the artist exhibited in Iloilo, because we're in Iloilo, I guess, And then next thing, I guess, that we ought to remember, if we're detailing now, we're listing the solo exhibitions that we've had. If you've had a solo exhibition in your high school, for example, high school corridor, then those things, I believe, are the things we omit. Or if there's just too much, in your CV, then try to deprioritize. I'm not saying they're not important. No, try to deprioritize also the exhibitions you've had in, let's say, if it's a pop up in a mall, in a mall. I mean, between, for example, between Ilomoca and, if you've exhibited in Ilomoca and then you've exhibited in, so and so high school corridor, I'd pick Ilomoca, to be at the top of my CV. Now, I guess these are some guidelines that we ought to remember, or what you did 10 years ago, or no, that's not too long pala for many artists. What you did 20 years ago or 50 years ago, what you did in your when you were 18 years old, and you're now 50 or 40, your mid-career, maybe, or you're already exhibiting in so many places, you're intergalactic, so what you did when you were 18, you won a taekwondo competition, you don't need to include that in your CV. Your hobbies, sure, cute, you have a cat, you like that cat, the cat inspires you, put it there, but other information, I guess, can be trimmed down, in your CV there. I
Thank
guess that
you.
applies, that goes back to the principle of emphasis, emphasis and subordination also.
And so the more significant solo exhibitions should be mentioned first. That's correct.
Yes,
All
yes.
right. We have another question though from our team. This is actually a good one. Do you know of some local art residencies where our upcoming artists could join? Because there are a lot of artists watching. So if you
Local art residencies in this pandemic, I'm not quite sure really. I haven't checked for many months now, because I was so into creating programs and creating platforms for creatives, that I haven't had time to check. But I know for a fact that the CCP, um, visual arts division, offers a lot of opportunities. As to the format of the residency, I'm not so sure, because given the pandemic, the format of the residency could be a mix of online and offline, maybe.
mm-mm.
No?
For
There.
CCP, they do announce their workshops
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
Facebook page. So for artists watching,
Yeah,
they
they're quite active, the
yes.
institutions right now. No, you've been seeing a lot of 360 exhibitions almost all the time. No,
And
and I know,
online workshops.
yeah, online workshops also. No, and I've been attending the Viva X Con talks also, and I found it interesting how they were able to bridge online and offline experiences. So I guess you need to check out, if other platforms, other institutions or organizations are offering these kinds of opportunities now. No? So it really just takes, Google, no, and
Yep.
Facebook search.
For Viva XCon, they do it every Saturday morning. So follow their page for that.
The talks, no,
The
yeah.
talks, the curatorial talks.
Mm-mm.
And here's another question from our team actually. How should a person go about following up on proposals?
How should the person follow up
Go
proposals?
about following up
I see.
proposals.
Usually it states in the guidelines. No, sometimes it states in the guidelines whether, the institution expects you not to follow up, no, because some institutions are like that. No, they would say, for example, that if the dossier is incomplete, no, or it's not properly labeled, you put DSC005888, no, in all your photos, then it's clearly states in their guidelines that they're not going to send you an email, no? And the ones who will be receiving an email are the ones accepted or the ones granted, for example, that project. No, so organizations are institutions especially are quite clear on that. If whether or not you should follow up or when, no, sometimes they also tell you you can follow up after 2 weeks, no, they say something like that, or after 1 week. If it's a gallery you're dealing with, I think the relationships are more personal, no, it's more personal, and usually they just ignore you if they don't want your proposal, or you get a scene zone maybe, no. If it's an institution, if it's a government institution, you can send them an email or call them through channels, no, because they're also obliged to respond to citizens who pay taxes. No? So you can do that. Now, if it's a privately funded museum, I guess they would have their hotlines and social pages. No? If they tell you that we'll inform you once the results are final, then that means don't be so makulit anymore, no? And just wait for them to inform you once results are final. Usually it's like that. It's like a dance, no? Nakikiramdam ka din.
Okay, because sometimes there's this but awkward 2 days when, oh, am I accepted or rejected? Is my
Two
proposal?
days. Just imagine if the person is reading 100 proposals and
That's
vetting
true.
if
That's
they
true.
need to
Because
go through a board, for example, like in the NCCA, they need to talk to a collective body before they decide who's going to be exhibited for the entire calendar year. So imagine if there are 100 of proposals, it's difficult to follow up only after 2 days.
that's true. We have another question from our team actually. So what would your advice be to artists who feel like what they do isn't exhibition worthy but want to exhibit in a gallery?
Advice to artists, I guess, that kind of question, it can be better answered by the panel on gallery representation. No, they're the perfect people to answer that, not really me. No, my advice to artists who want to exhibit in a gallery but find or have doubts maybe whether their project is exhibition worthy or not. Okay, I'm going to answer that. No, I'm not sure what the take of the gallerists are. No, I'm not in the position to speak for them, but I can say that the first thing that the artist should have done, or what the artist can do, is research. I guess that's something we often forget. When you think of a project, or if you're starting a series, no, nag-research ka na ba? Nakita mo na ba? No? Baka mamaya yung ginagawa mong artwork, ano pala yun, no? For example, meron na palang ganong monument or meron na palang ganong sculpture sa Cebu, nag-iba lang ng pose, for example, no? So I've read some proposals like that. Yung sculpture, nag-iba lang ng pose, nakaganon, yung ginawa niya nasa kanan. So I think, no, what's missing there is not really a lack of talent, no? Don't be discouraged. It's more of nagkulang sa research, no? You did not, I guess you could scope the field more, see what artworks are already available out there, no? Usually naman artists post their works online, no? So you could go to, let's say, Art Philippines, that platform, no? Or maybe look at different social media pages, no, of artist groups, and see what kind of projects have already been done. Now, if you're asking yourself, is my project exhibition worthy or not? Look also at the organization's previous exhibitions. No? Yung ginagawa mo, can it somehow, may laban ba? No? Or pwede bang pumasa given the kind of exhibitions that gallery has previously staged? No? I guess that's one way to assess.
Okay, we will also ask the panel on gallery representation this question on February 27th.
Mm-mm.
We have another question from our viewer. The question is, do you have any recommendations for any books or podcasts on art history or art curation? I also want to ask this.
Art curation. Which one? Art history or art curation? These are two very different things. No? Art history, there are many art history books that have been published already. No? Top of my head, if you're looking for kung marami kang budget, bibili ka, you go to, what's that bookshop in Pioneer? Art Books, kay Ringo, Bunoan. Art Books PH ba yon tawag doon? Pioneer Mandaluyong. No? They have plenty of publications already on Philippine art. If you're interested in Philippine art history, yeah, no? So you go to that, no, you go to that page, Art Books PH, and you will see titles of art history books. Also, you might want to check out also the CCP Encyclopedia of Art is already online. No, it costs if you're an individual subscriber under 1,000 pesos for an entire year yata by bank transfer. No, so at least you can scope the field. No, you know what's out there, what artworks have been previously produced. No, of course, that's more of survey. Ha? Now, if you're looking for art history talaga, then you Google the names of the art historians that we have. Alice Guillermo, Patrick Flores, Santiago Albano Pilar, for example. And their books would just show up on Google. No? Di ko memorize lahat ng titles ng book nila, but I can clearly recall Patrick Flores' Art After War. No? Art After War. Contemporary art. Okay? No, so there are many. No, as to books, if you want to know the international, general art history, global art history, for example, I like Prentice Hall. No, I like there are many art books. No, I think yung book sale is the title of the second-hand bookshop. Is already online now, and you can practically order online. No, you can also check out ang dami ko palang alam, no? Akala ko wala ko naaalala. You can also check out the Metropolitan Museum of Art New York's website. Nako, nandun na lahat, buong art history ng buong mundo. Nakaano pa yan, geographic clustering. No? Pipili ka, may filters. Anong gusto mo? Ethiopian art. Gusto mo ba when you say European art history, what part of Europe? Europe when? No, so it's all there in Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York. It's all there. I like it. Even the essays are all there.
All right, thank you. I'm really sure that all these tips are helpful to the artists, especially to those who want to submit proposals but don't know where to start. Before we end the talk, Laya, do you have any words that you want to share to the viewers?
Just one word: research. Research, yes. It also helps you not plagiarize even unintentionally. No? And research is applicable in so many aspects, whether you are, it's not just when you're writing a proposal, no, but it's also when you're actually producing the work.
All right. Remember, guys, it's research, and more research. So, thank you, Laya, for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, everyone, for sharing or for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. So now that we are ready to create our exhibition proposals, I would like to also share to everyone that Ilumoka is accepting exhibition proposals for our Hulot Gallery. So you can apply what you've learned today and to inquire how to submit your proposal, you can just send us a message on our Facebook page and we will help you with the proposals. So again, yes, in Lumoka, the Hulot Gallery is already open to public. And to comply with the government's guidelines on social distancing, we are allowing 20 people inside the the museum at a time. So it is best to message us ahead for an appointment. Again, if you would like to catch our upcoming live streams, mark your calendars and set your reminders. So schedule is what you see on your screen. Right there, February 20 and 27. So hope to see you then. And in the meantime, you can also drop us a message on our social media accounts. See you next week. Thank you.